Hey, today we are talking about why you are struggling to trust again after divorce and how to fix that. I'm going to give you some real step by steps on what it is that you're doing that's keeping you stuck and how to get past it. I'm Terry, and I've helped hundreds of divorce clients heal their underlying abandonment wounds and their childhood traumas so that they can have peace and create healthy, amazing relationships moving forward. Okay. So here's the thing, you're probably labeling yourself as insecure. And I'm going to tell you why that's a huge mistake, because if you're labeling yourself insecure, you probably do have all those symptoms of it, right? You probably struggle with second guessing, low self esteem, not trusting yourself, not having really good boundaries, maybe even with anxiety and needing lots of control. But here's the thing, I want you to look at that rather than labeling yourself as insecure. I want you to think about that really what's going on is that you have an emotional need to feel safe. And there's a distinction there because one is kind of based on labeling and blame, and one is based on fixing the problem and fixing the underlying root cause. And that's, usually because of our underlying trauma, our underlying abandonment wounds that have caused us to need to feel safe, to feel secure, to feel accepted, right? We need all of those things. And it comes from a deep, deep root inside of us. And until we heal that, all of our relationships are going to be on a rocky, rocky foundation. And here's the thing. There's good news and bad news. The bad news is probably you have been utilizing relationships to make you feel secure, to make you feel safe. Trust me, been there, done that, got the divorce sucks t-shirt because I looked for my husband to constantly reassure me, to constantly tell me he loved me, all that stuff, right? I was just really, really needy in my marriage. And it all stemmed from just needing that unconditional love, needing that unconditional acceptance, needing that emotional safe place. So the good news is you can heal that, and you, not anyone else, right? Because the truth is, when you look to other people who use that against you, you end up in toxic relationships, you're in dysfunctional relationship patterns because you're bringing this unhealed version of you into this relationship, and it makes for a not so great a dynamic. And when you utilize somatic work, inner child healing work, you can soothe your nervous system, because that's what needs to happen. You have to figure out a way to regulate yourself, because that's the foundation. You cannot think from a place of clarity and from a place of your higher self until you are regulated and grounded and centered. Okay. So if you are emotionally dysregulated, you are going to be making some really poor choices. So the bad news is you've probably been using relationships and partners to try to cure that, and it hasn't worked out great, right? Because you're divorced. But the good news is that you can learn how to do it yourself. Now, it took me years. It took me years to figure it out. But what I teach is a 5-step systematic actionable process where you heal all those underlying wounds and underlying traumas so that you show up as your full aligned self, and you have great boundaries, and you feel confident, and you feel self-assured in your relationships. So the other piece of this is not only, right, learning how to regulate yourself and choose from a place of your highest self, but also making sure that you have the self-worth and the self-esteem to then back up those boundaries, to learn how to listen to your inner voice, listen to that inner guidance, right? Because so many years you've been walking on eggshells, you don't know which is which, like which, I don't know what to listen to. I second guess myself all the time. How do I find that security and confidence? So it is kind of this foundational part of this system where you develop the self-esteem, you develop the self-worth. And again, I do that through a 5-step actionable process. It's a systemized process where I give you actionable strategies, exercises, and tools to implement so that you're developing the self-worth You are developing the self-confidence. You're learning how to show self-compassion, unconditional self-love, and unconditional self-acceptance of yourself so you can walk into every relationship as your highest self. Okay. So it is like a kind of foundational process, and then we add the layers on top of it. So, listen, I have a free resource where we talk about how to find inner peace in the aftermath of divorce, even if you're struggling to trust yourself, okay? Even if you've been in multitudes of toxic relationships and you can't break those cycles, I'm going to show you how to break the cycle because we're going to dive deeply into the three vital keys that are needed for you to develop that peace, okay? We dive deep into it. So if you want the details of that, just comment peace below and I'm going to reach out to you with an invitation. Okay. All right. Well, I will talk to you next week.